excited. We're here at RGNY, and it's been a couple years since I've been here. New winemaker, same owner, new winemaker. We're gonna do a whole tasting. I'm super excited about this. So will you please introduce yourself and share a little bit about you before we get into all of this?
Of course. Well, welcome back again, and thank you for coming out. I love the introduction. My name is Mora. I am the viticulturist and winemaker here at RGNY.
Well, we were talking beforehand. What's super cool is you're from Oregon.
Originally from Oregon, yeah.
And I was like, oh, we're having Gonzalez Wine Company at our event. And you're like, I know Christina, and I know we know like so many of the same people, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's a small community of Latino winemakers and Latino-owned wineries in general. And so when you hear of a new one or you know of an established one, it's another way to connect.
Yes.
Connect with other people with similar backgrounds that are doing the same thing that you are.
So how did you end up here at RGNY?
Ooh, quite a story. So
yeah, spill the chisme.
It really felt like destiny almost, right?
Really?
It's maybe a little heavy to say that, but originally my wife and I, we were looking to leave the industry. The last season that I worked out in Oregon was in 2021, right? We were on our way down to Puerto Escondido, Oaxaca.
Oh,
so
yeah.
My family's originally
Oaxaca.
from Oaxaca. Oaxaca's beautiful.
I love it.
Gorgeous down there, the culture, the food, the people, of course. And my family's originally from Oaxaca. They emigrated to Oregon in the late 80s, and that's when they started, growing wine grapes. But we ended up living there during the pandemic for about 8, 9 months. And we loved it. So we came back, we got our ducks in a row, and the plan was to move down there and start a different life, right? I love this industry. I love growing wine grapes. I love making wine. I've been growing wine grapes all my life. My family's been growing wine grapes out in Oregon since the late 80s. I started my winemaking career in 2011, 2012. I was still just a teenager, learning to do punch downs, scaring away birds from eating the grapes. And that's how I got into it. But I knew early on that I loved that. Everything that involved working with your hands, working with nature, but also the math and the science and the biology and chemistry behind it. And then the intangibles, the artistic side of it. All of it it checked every box for me. And so I knew that's what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. When we made the decision to move away from the industry and move down to Mexico, my wife and I really had a serious conversation. She knew that I love this. Like, I know that this has always been your passion. I want you to be sure. I want you to be sure about this because I don't want to get down there and a couple months into it, you'd be like, you know what, I miss it. We got to go back.
Yeah.
Because
that's a huge lifestyle change.
Absolutely, right? To go from Oregon to Oaxaca, to go from wine grape growing and winemaking to
Mezcal country.
Mezcal country, right? We were going to be on the beach. I don't know. I was going to be a fisherman. I don't know. I didn't have a plan. We bought some e-bikes, and then we were thinking maybe that
you were going to dip the lure in mezcal and try and get some fish that way.
Yeah, emborracharlos and then see if they fall.
You're going to get a talguda and see what they buy.
Exactly. A little bit of, un pescado zarandeado, whatever, but that's what we were looking to do. And I told my wife, yes, I am sure. I love this industry, but I think, for our life, we need to try something different. And she was like, well, what if you want to come back? And I'm like, the only way that it would happen is if, and then I made a list, right?
Right.
If I found the perfect job in the perfect place with this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And at the time, that opportunity really didn't exist for me in Oregon. Right? And that was always the first choice because that's what I knew. That's where I grew up. That's where all my connections were. That's where my family is.
Right.
And I didn't see that. Right? And so in my head, I was like, that's not going to happen in Oregon. So we packed stuff off, and we left Oregon. Originally, we were supposed to leave in November of 2022. Well, the car that we bought ended up delaying its registration and all this paperwork that we needed to be able to cross the border, and so we didn't leave until the day after Christmas, 2022.
Oh.
You know, we'd have everything packed, and so we left. Um, Started having some car troubles in California. Right before we got to LA, you know, our transmission started acting a little weird, but it kept going. So we're like, okay, we're good. When we got to El Paso, Texas, the transmission gave out. Transmission gave out, and this was the 30th, right before New Year's.
Oh.
Right? And we were stuck in El Paso for about a month and a half. It was still, you know, everything was still backed up because of the pandemic. So the transmission, we couldn't get there in time. So we were there for about a month and a half. But we got the transmission fixed, and we got back on the road. 7 hours later, we hit a deer.
Oh my God! Talk about signs.
Well, that's, you know, and at the time we felt it. We were like, okay, all of these bumps in the road, all these hiccups. Hopefully,
literal bumps in the road.
Seriously, yeah, that one was a big one, and it messed up the whole front of the car, and we were stuck. We hit the deer 30 minutes outside of Uvalde, Texas, and we ended up in Uvalde for about 3 weeks, and this was months after the tragedy in Uvalde, right? And so it really was. It felt very heavy there, you know, and so we were there. The plan was still on. We were still looking to go. But in the back of our head, there was just this thought, like, maybe all of this is happening for a reason. I spoke with my parents, I spoke with my mom, and she was like, you really took your time in making this decision. I know this is what you want to do. But sometimes, you know, life has other plans for us. So think about it. That's all she said. She didn't want to discourage me. You know, my mom has always been very supportive. But I got a phone call. I got a phone call from a friend who tried some wine that was awesome. He's like, hey, you're going to be passing through Torreon on your way down. He knew our itinerary. You're going to be an hour away from this place called RGMX. You should stop by, make a detour, check them out. I just had some of their wines. They're doing really great wines in Parras. We knew about Valle de Guadalupe. We knew about Querétaro. All of these other regions who were already established or definitely up and coming in Mexico.
Yeah.
Right? I was always very into the Mexican wines. I had no idea they were growing wine grapes in Parras, Coahuila, northern Mexico, high desert climate. Well, it turns out it's the oldest wine growing region in the Americas.
Yeah.
Right? The Spanish monks, when they established the settlements there, started planting vines to make their communion wine. That's where that wine industry got started in the Americas. And so I started looking it up. RGMX, what's RGMX? But the thing that popped up was RGNY, right? And I was like, RGNY, York, Finger Lakes, Hudson Valley, where is this, right? No, it's in Long Island. Long Island, New York. And I was like, Long Island? Isn't that like sand? Like, can you grow grapes there? Like, do grapes grow there? And looking, you know, doing some more research, absolutely. The wine industry has been around here for 50 years, right? The vineyards were planted in 73. The first vineyard, the Hargraves planted it. And I was like, wow, okay. And as I was looking into RGNY, it popped up that they were looking for a viticulturist, right? They wanted this experience. This is what they were looking to do in this new region for them. The philosophy of the company, Mexican ownership, what they wanted to do in terms of the farming and how that translated to the winemaking, the opportunity out here. And it just checked off all of these boxes, right? And then to top it off, my wife, most of her family is originally from the East Coast, from New England area. Her parents ended up moving out to Oregon just before she was born, and so she grew up out there. But all her family, her grandmas, her grandpas, her aunts and uncles, they were all up here in the Northeast. She went to school out here in the Northeast. And so we were looking up Riverhead. That's right across the bay from Rhode Island, where her grandma lives.
Oh, really?
Right? New Hampshire, where her other grandma lives. Her uncles live in Massachusetts. And all of these things were just like getting ticked off. That works, that works, that works, and that works. And it just felt like another sign. You know, like after all of these bumps, that were saying don't go this way, all of a sudden this other thing came
It's
up and
saying go
said
this way.
maybe this other way is the way to go. You know?
That is so cool. That, oh my gosh. So how did you end up? Let me do this real quick. I'm gonna just fold it here just to make sure. There we go. Just to make
Moving
sure.
around a little bit. Yeah, sorry.
Um. So ticks all these boxes for you. So what do you end up doing? Do you like obviously? Do you just reach out and call? Do you apply online? Like, what's the process to? Because this is like a really big property. They have a lot of different wines that are made here. What is the process going through all of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I replied to the posting. I sent an email with a CV over to the winemaker at the time, and they said, yeah, like you check off all of the boxes. Um, Usually the next step would be to then pass you on to a second interview. We had an interview, pass it on to the second interview with the general manager. But I think I'm just going to have you have a phone call with Maria.
Yeah.
Mainly just to confirm that you know how to speak Spanish. Because I think they had
Yeah.
other applicants that said, yeah, I know how to speak Spanish, but it wasn't quite there, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, when I spoke to Maria,
And Maria's first, she's from Mexico.
Yep.
Her first
Yep.
language is Spanish.
Absolutely.
You know, she speaks very good English
Yeah.
as well because we've done
Yes.
a whole thing, but there's some things that don't translate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and more than, you know, even understanding and knowing how to speak Spanish, there's also the cultural
Yeah.
elements about it. And so on the phone, I think the first thing I said to her was like, "Hi, Maria, how's it going?" And I could kind of hear like a sigh, like, "Oh, does this guy really know how to speak Spanish?" And then we got into it. No, like I know, hola, ¿cómo estás? Mucho gusto, me llamo Mora. This is my background, you know. And I think we hit it off. I think it worked out.
I think so.
Yeah. A few days later, I got an official offer, and I think I took 24 hours just to chew it over, you know, just to settle it a little bit. I think I knew fairly early on that I wanted to be here, you know, and I accepted.
That
And we
is
took a
so
left turn.
exciting. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I am so excited. Maria just had her birthday.
She did. Yesterday.
So I
Happy
was
birthday,
messaging.
Maria.
So yesterday I messaged her happy birthday and I told her I was going to be here and she's like, "Oh, I'm so excited." But, you know, I hadn't realized that they had changed the winemakers and I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to like have you walk us through because I have my two girlfriends with us as well. I have Erica and I have Ellie, who we kind of got a flight of each, and then you brought some white sparkling. So where do we start? Where do we want to start? Walk us through what we're having here.
All right. Well, I guess let's start at the start. You each have 3 different flights. Emily?
Erica.
Erica. She's got the September flight. So some wines that are looking more to represent the shift that's happening between summer into fall, right? Here we've got the Cielo line. So this one here is going to be our wines that are representative of the North Fork, and also something that we're looking to be more approachable and accessible earlier on. That's something that gets made one year and developed and bottled and for the next year. Rosés, white wines, chillable reds. I think there's a Malbec there as well. And you have our RG line. So these are wines that we are looking to build to age with food. These are going to be representative of the style, the philosophy, and come with a sense of place of what the North Fork is. Right? But we'll start off with the sparkling white. This one here is a sparkling white wine from 2021. This is actually a special edition labeling of it. This is artwork that was done for our 5-year anniversary by Alexis Zambrano.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's an amazing piece that he put together for us, specifically for our anniversary. And
they're all stomping grapes. I love that.
Yeah, it's a representation of, the winemaking culture, Mexican culture, and what that blend ends up being. Right, and so that's what this one is.
Unintended?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got it. and that being said, this ended up being about a 50-50 split blend of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay.
Oh.
Yeah, so
oh, wow, that's exciting. I've not had a Pinot Noir Chardonnay sparkling wine.
It is it's a very classic blend out in Champagne, but it's also something that brings a lot of complexity, a lot of
Yeah.
elegance, a lot of depth to this wine, while still keeping this core of bright acidity and salinity, and again a great representation of what the North Fork is.
Yeah.
Um,
Ooh, oh, look at that. No pop, right? He's like, I'm a pro.
what does the book say? The book says it's got to be as quiet as a nun's fart. It was always kind of funny to me, right? But that's the way that I like to follow it. But
So before we taste this, I obviously there are so many wines. Have there been any wines that you've decided maybe you guys shouldn't cultivate here anymore since you've been here?
so we are in the process. Maddie, thank you. Yeah, we're in the process of determining that, right? And really, that has a lot to do with what can grow well here, right? And that is shifting. This industry has been around for 50 years. When this industry was first developed, um, it was based on
Thank
what
you.
the soils were, what the climate was, and the determination was that it is very similar to Bordeaux France. And so a lot of Bordeaux varietals.
Oh, it smells so good. It smells like it smells toasty. You can smell. Yeah.
Well, cheers.
Salud.
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 Salud. Salud.
And we all have our sunglasses.
I know. It definitely has like that brioche, like bread smell when you smell it, but this is so light.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's had some time to really develop that bright acidity that might have been a little biting in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's now mellowed out. We actually have still some cages of this undisgorged that we might end up holding on to a little bit longer and sort of see what that does, how that wine develops.
This is so good. What do you guys think?
Baja suave.
It is.
Baja muy suave.
Como que no le gustó, ¿verdad?
A little bit, a little bit. This is delicious.
So much. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is so good.
I like this because sometimes like the sparkling be hard to like swallow.
Yeah.
It does go down.
Yeah, you know what? Like it's sparkling, but the bubbles aren't overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like the carbonation sometimes can be really overwhelming, where you're like, oh, it tickles down your throat and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. It's very smooth. It's very like, I don't know. It's just really good.
Thank you. Again, this one is one of those that, when the vintage is right, it's really just up to us as the producers to guide those wine grapes, right? And I think this year was one of those types of
Yeah.
years,
I mean, I was asking earlier how harvest is, because you're in the middle of harvest.
Yes.
So
yes.
You're saying it's going pretty well. What are you seeing?
Wow. So I started off this season with kind of a rough patch, vineyard in general. Right around the end of April, we got a frost. It wasn't very heavy. It wasn't for too long. It was for 2 hours on a Friday morning, April 26th, right? The temperature dipped below 32 degrees for a couple hours between 4 and 6 in the morning. But when you woke up that morning, went outside, everything is covered with a little layer of frost.
Mm-hmm.
And I just knew, I was like, this is different. Because the year before, we also had a frost event, and it was colder for longer. 2 days, 28 degrees at night for 8 hours plus, right? And we saw really no damage. So everyone was like, oh, this is nothing. This is going to be fine. At that time, our Chardonnay had the little buds that already burst. Gewürztraminer, Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc a little bit, Viognier, all of these white wine varietals had already burst. Some of the Pinot Noir, the younger Pinot Noir, the earlier ripening Pinot Noir had already burst as well. So we had these little buds that were swollen. And the sap flow was flowing because it had been warm for the couple of weeks before then. And then it froze. And by Sunday, you saw that damage throughout every varietal that had a burst bud. They were just dried, they were dead, and it was quite devastating. It was quite devastating. At that time, I held on to this sort of silver lining because in the past it's happened to me before. Out in Oregon in 2021 in April, we got a week of snow and ice, and everything, same sort of thing. Everything had already burst. There were little buds, and all the primary buds had died. You know, they were damaged by the frost, but the secondary buds came up, extended the season by about a couple of weeks, and they all gave fruit. So that was still my hope. I was like, the secondary buds are going to come out and they're going to give fruit, and they just didn't. Secondary buds did come up. The vines were healthy. The canopy was green, but there was no fruit on them.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a rough start to the season, and then from that April into about mid to late August, it was wet. It was rainy every week, you know. And in the spring, especially in the early spring, you want that, you know. In very well drained soils like ours, it helps. It helps the vine keep that energy and stay green. But it also brings disease pressure, right? With the humidity that we have out here, with the temperatures that sit between 75 and 85 degrees, fungus and mildews and other pathogens just love that, right? So all season we had that, and it was just, it was sort of foreboding on what that harvest might be like. If this rain continued into late August through September, we could end up losing quite a bit of that crop to disease, right? To pathogen pressure. But then after this huge rainstorm, it was in August. I think it was the first or second week of August.
Just this last August?
Just this past August, there was a just dump of rain out west, and Port Jefferson. They got about 10 inches of rain. Out here, we got about 4 or 5. But it was heavy, and I was just ready to cry. I was like, no, it's happening again. You know, it's happening. But after that, it dried out. September was totally dry. It was beautiful like this. It was sunny, 70 to 75 degrees. The nights were cool. The acid was hanging on. The sugars were moving. You know, the bricks were developing.
They already knew I was coming.
I think so, right? So the weather knew. Like, you know what? When Jessica gets here, let's calm down a little bit with the rain. And it was clear. The rain went away. In fact, just recently in this past week, we started to get a little bit of drizzle, but it really hasn't affected the grapes at all. So right now we're letting it hang. We're letting that fruit develop flavor, develop those sugars, balance those acids, and I think it's going to be an amazing year for red wines. Yeah, the white wines, also amazing. There's just a lot less of them.
Right.
The plant was able to focus its energy on that little bit that was left, so the white wine grapes were also absolutely delicious.
So when did you guys harvest the white wine grapes?
The first white wine grapes came in on August 31st. It was Chardonnay for our sparkling wine program. Yeah. So again, a lot, maybe about 10% of what we would have otherwise harvested on a regular year. But the fruit was just beautiful. Yeah. It was just balanced. The numbers, the bricks, the pH, it all just came in at exactly what we wanted. Right?
That is so crazy to be like, no, you're probably like, I imagine like on a TV show or a movie on your knees. No, why?
And it was really terrifying because we had an event that night, you know, and we had it was dinner in the vines. It's part of a harvest series. And we go out in the vines, we set up the tables and, you know, some string lights, and we have dinner in the vines. And I just the day before I was speaking to the event, I was like, we have to move that into the tent rain plan. They were a little bummed. I was like, it could be just a little sprinkle, but even that could ruin the dinner. So let's move it into the rain tent. It ended up being a downpour with like a lightning storm. It was actually super cool, right? I think everyone was like really having fun. They were like, wow, this is a crazy storm, amazing food, amazing wines, and the
tent held up.
Yeah, it did.
I know that.
Down the walls because the rain was coming in, but it held up really well. In the back of I was smiling. I was like, yeah, this is cool, guys. I hope you enjoy it. You know, I put an order in for rain. It was on purpose. I promise, you know.
It's for the ambiance.
Exactly, you know, putting on the face. But in the back of my head, I was just like, my grapes, they're going to have a rough time. But it didn't end up affecting them. Again, these well-drained soils absorbed that water, let it drain through, and it didn't swell up these berries. They didn't burst. There wasn't disease pressure. And from then on, it's just been quite smooth sailing. Let me knock on wood.
Wine break. Time to refill that glass and come back for more wine and chisme. Oh my gosh. Well, let's go to the next wine before we go to the...
Yeah. So here you're going to have the Tinto, the 2022 Tinto.
Okay.
It is
Are we going to start this way? Or
Yeah,
okay.
we'll start from left to right.
Okay.
You know what? No, let's start from right to left.
Okay.
What am I saying here? I'm all backwards. Sparkling rosé.
Okay.
So you have the sparkling rosé. I believe here you have the Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc. And that looks like the rosé.
Which one?
The first one here.
Oh, Chardonnay.
Chardonnay. Oh, Cielo Chardonnay. Awesome. So 3 different wines.
Salud, ladies.
Salud. Cheers, ladies. Yeah. I'm going to continue with my sparkling wine.
Yes.
Salud. That one here is a rosé, a sparkling rosé. I think sparkling wines in general out here are well suited for this area.
Okay, I will say this: like the taste, it was saying some grapefruit on the tongue, and I'm not a grapefruit fan, and normally that's like the first when it says grapefruit. I think it's also a mental thing, but even if it's not, I usually taste it, and I don't like.
It's a little restrained.
Yeah, you know? It's not like I've tasted where I'm like, this has grapefruit, huh? And they're like, this it has grapefruit notes, and they're like, yeah, and I'm like, I can't take it, but this is not that at all. But I can definitely, even the smell, the aroma, I can definitely smell the strawberry.
And that one has also got some age on it, so it's also developed some of those flavors that might have stood out in the beginning, have sort of incorporated and just added to that.
Yeah, this is good.
The Sauvignon Blanc is going to be tropical going forward on the nose, right? You're going to get some grapefruit, you're going to get some star fruit, some passion fruit, mango sometimes, right? It really all depends on your palate, right? What you taste, what you like. But that one is very, and it's also very representative of what we grow out here. Very different from other Sauvignon Blanc regions, for sure. And here, the Chardonnay, stainless steel fermented.
I was about to say stainless or oak barrel aged, because I like stainless steel Chardonnays. I'm not a big oak barrel aged Chardonnay fan because it's too heavy and too buttery for my palate.
Yeah, you know, I think that every style has a place, and there are some Chardonnays that develop enough flavor and enough heft to be able to stand up to that. Ours, again, because we're a cool grape growing region, we want to showcase what that grape actually tastes like, what that region tastes like, what the soil, the climate, the hands that do the work end up incorporating into that flavor. So that's a very structured, so good bright acidity, good fruit, but you're not going to get that buttery. You're not going to get that oaky flavor. You're going to get the fruit, and you're going to get the vintage for that one, for sure.
This is good. This is the rosé sparkling.
I like that one.
Yeah, this is good. You want to try this?
This literally tastes like fruit in a glass.
Yeah, right. It's there, and that one again. It's really there's certain regions where you might get something a little more grassy, a little vegetable.
That is a good Chardonnay.
Thank you so much.
That's a really good Chardonnay.
Really appreciate that.
It is, well, no, I mean, I think that's so important. Like, you know, I'm so excited about the event that we're having because we are having different regions, right? One day I would love to get different regions, all the same wine, so people could taste like how different they are. Because even within the same region, it'll taste different based on the topology of that area and based on the winemaker and based on like I think people don't realize like how many different things go into like the actual flavor that comes out when you're drinking it. What would you say, like, what's been your biggest surprise from the wine, like the winemaking that you're doing here versus Oregon?
Wow, biggest surprise.
I'm good at what I do.
That's a good question. You know, I've got to think about that one a little. I think really is I wouldn't say necessarily very surprising, but a little unexpected because I didn't know much about the region, right? You don't really hear too much about Long Island in general.
Right.
Again, I knew about the Finger Lakes, I knew about Hudson Valley, but there are some amazing wines out here. There are some really, you know, just complex and delicious, tasty wines out here that people don't know about. And I would love for more people to come out and try some of them because I think Long Island is really going to start to put itself on the map for the wines that we build out here.
Yeah.
Right? Because the people who've been growing wine grapes out here, making wine out here, have put in the time. They have the experience. They understand their region, and they also understand how to shift with that, right? Depending on what the vintage gives you.
Yeah.
And so you end up making these wines with a lot of character and a lot of flavor. Um, I would say we could absolutely do a better job of getting those wines out there, right? Letting people know, hey, come out, try
Yeah.
this Long Island wine because it is tasty. Maybe in the past there's been other stigmas or other perceptions of what Long Island wine could be, but we're past it. What
Yeah.
I've tasted from the people that I've gotten to know out here, it's moving so quickly and so in the right direction.
Yeah.
So that's something that again, I'm surprised that more people don't know about Long Island wines.
You know, when I tell people, not only, first of all, people are shocked to hear that there's wine in Long Island, but then I'm like, there's a Latino owned winery, and they're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
In Long, I'm like, she's from wait, how'd she go from Mexico to? I'm like, here's her podcast. She explains it, but I think as you're saying this, I'm like, man, we need to have a retreat out here. We need to have a retreat out here. And I'm not gonna lie, I've not tasted other Long Island wines because I'm, but I do. I really want to support my Latina and Latino owned wine brands. So I'm an RGNY fan, right?
Thank you so much. That absolutely means a lot, and that's I think that's something that does set us apart, right? We incorporate our roots into our experiences, our events, our decor, because we're Mexican. And we're proud of that, and we want people to understand, the food even, right?
I was just about to say, because one of the things that I think when it's not only a Latino wine brand, but when it's um, a a Latino or Latino winemaker, there is something about, and I've talked on this point with other brands, that when you guys make the wine, you make it also with our palate in mind. Because so often, mainstream wine brands or larger wine brands that you're going to find in the store, they're just thinking of the general population because they're in these big stores and they have to, but there's just something when you're talking about, having wine with pozole, having wine with tamales, having wine with enchiladas, having wine with tamales, like that no other Latine, like if you're not from our culture, you don't even think about, right? Now, being that you're Mexican, what about, like, obviously you have the Caribbean flavors in this area in New York. Are those some of the things that you think about as well? Not just Mexican flavors, right? But sabor de other Latin countries.
Absolutely, right? Out here, we have a very diverse Latina population, right? When I came out here, in fact, I was having a hard time finding the other Mexicans, right?
We have two Dominicans here.
Yeah. So, of course, the Dominican population, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Central Americans, Salvadorans, Guatemalans. I have a member on my cruise from Ecuador. It's a big melting pot. This is New York, right? We're 2.5 hours outside of the city. You're going to see a lot of different Latinos, of course, from the Caribbean as well. And that's always, for me, a great wine is a wine that you can have with food, right? And so, yeah, I mean, keeping that in mind, right? Good structure, good acid, good flavors, something that you can pair well with all kinds of dishes, right? And then understanding that everyone has a different palate. We all have different cultures that we grew up in. We like different things, and so making these wines to be food friendly, to be representative of a sense of place, but to appeal to different cultures, different palates, right? You're not going to like every wine that we make. We really hope that you find a few that you do.
Yeah.
Right? And of course, they're going to pair well with these delicious Latina plates, right? This Caribbean food. I'm thinking I've got introduced to some more Dominican food out here. I've gotten introduced to Salvadoran dishes, Guatemalan dishes, and it's just like,
I'm a pupusa fan. I love pupusas.
Pupusas are delicious,
I
right?
love pupusas, but I'm yet to have Dominican food. She's been promising me for 2 years.
This week.
Yeah. There's a couple of places out here that you can go check out. I think Antigua over in Riverhead is a good spot. But yeah, when you think about like spicy dishes or or fatty dishes, right? Greasy, fried, something like that. We want something to be able to cut through that,
Yeah.
right? With a spicy dish, I might do like a Gewürztraminer, right? The skin contact Gewürztraminer with a tinga tostada, right? Or
Ooh, that
maybe
sounds good. Okay, what about like you're having some tostones?
some tostones. I would pair that with something a little bright, acidic, or sparkling Riesling.
Okay, Dominican
Sparkling
food. So
Riesling,
what else?
yeah,
What
some
else?
That's one of
some
my
That's
favorites.
empanadas.
certainly.
Sparkling Riesling.
Yeah, really.
Okay,
And it's
so what a Dominican food that you love?
Tostones.
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Besides, I
That's a
see. Look
great
at.
one.
I was like, I'm with
Absolutely.
you, Dominicans. Tostones.
Yeah.
Anything plátano based.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like and that's what, and it's really up to you to come out here and try different things
Yeah.
and understand what's going to go well with something else. Right? I might say, hey, I'll have a pozole with this Malbec, right? You may be like, you know what? I like the Malbec with some empanadas
Yeah.
or like a quesadilla.
And wait, I love that you're saying that because I always tell people like wine is so subjective. Like we all have different palates, we all have different things that we like, and we could say, "Oh, well, we think this pairs well with this," but ultimately, it's really what satisfies your palate, right? Like the best wine is the wine that you like.
Yeah, exactly. You know, where it's very personal. Wine tasting, wine enjoyment, just like having some food, it's very personal.
Yeah.
You do what you like is what you like, and you're right. You know.
Yes. Okay. Let's go to the next one.
Okay, so here you have the Pinot Noir, the RG Pinot Noir.
Wait, you forgot the Sauvignon Blanc.
I'm skipping over here. See, I'm
Oh.
going this way. You're right. Sauvignon BLANC-SEMILLON. Oof, that one's a really cool one. A blend of Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon grapes, right? Sort of two white wine grapes that sit on opposite spectrum. Here you have the Rosé, right? That one's going to be coming next. It ends up being a different blend year to year, depending on what flavors are going to develop well that specific vintage for what we believe the Rosé should be. And you have the Riesling, if I'm not mistaken, the Riesling there. That's the still Riesling, or the sparkling Riesling. I believe it's still Riesling. Okay.
I smelled this before I read the card because I was like, oh, I want to. You know, once you get it in your head, then you're just like, oh yeah, I do smell that.
Yeah, the power of suggestion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I was like, what is that? Because it's not, and I was trying to figure it out, but then when I looked at it, I was like, oh, it's almond. That's what I smell,
Mhm.
but it's not something that I normally like instantly connect with
Right.
with the white wine.
Yeah.
It's almond.
Yeah, a little bit. So that's going to come from some of the oak influence, there,
Mhm.
right? So this one it's had different variations of it, and we harvest them at the peak of their ripeness. The Sauvignon Blanc usually comes in earlier than the Semillon, fermented separately, and then finding that balance of what would make that wine, right? Sauvignon Blanc, brighter acidity, more fruit forward. The Semillon, a little more savory, a little more complexity there.
The savoriness is what I definitely get. I love savory, by the way. I love that. Like give me umami all day. Like like give me those umami flavors all day long.
Yeah.
And that's I definitely get more of the for my palate. I definitely get more of the savoriness than the like the fruitiness of the mango or anything like that. But I'm getting like the savory part.
Yeah. So what we're looking for that one is again balance, complexity. We don't want one varietal to stand out more than the other.
Yeah.
We actually want it to be slightly different every time you go back to it, right? That's what I feel.
And this is actually really pretty low alcohol. It's 11.7.
Yeah. And so that's sort of for us something that is reflective of the region, right? Certain vintages, like the 2022, are going to get really ripe. The sugar's going to develop really well, and so you'll have a higher alcohol. Others are a little bit cooler, a little bit wetter, so you might not have that, right? Again, representative of the vintage, but also, we're not looking to necessarily put a bunch of stuff into it or take a bunch of stuff out to make it what we want it to be. We want it to be representative of time and place. Right?
So, do you guys do any vegan wines, or would you guys consider yourself organic or moving towards that way? I know that people like really sometimes want to know. And if not, that's okay. I mean, I like all wines, so I'm non-discriminate. But I know that there's some people those are the things that they look for. So is there any of the wines that maybe tilt that way?
Right. So it's very important, right? I think in general, the public that consumes wine is always looking to be more informed about what they're consuming and finding wines that fit their values, right? Everything that we grow here and we make, it's all estate grown, is certified sustainable through the Long Island Sustainable Wine Growing Association. They have been around since the longest certified sustainable organization in New York. So 2013. Martha Clara, which was the previous iteration of this winery,
From the Entmans family.
from the Entenmann's, yeah, you know,
I know.
they helped found that program.
Oh, really?
Yes, and so we've been certified sustainable since then, right? And so what that incorporates is different restrictions on how we can farm, how we can apply uh, fungicides, pesticides, or lack thereof, and really how we treat the land. And of course, there's the social portion of it, how we treat the people as well, right? We are not certified organic. We are not certified biodynamic. I think there's always this piece of me, because that's really all of my experience out in Oregon. The majority of the places that I farmed and grew wine grapes for were organic or biodynamic, certified organic, certified. So there's always this goal of reaching for more, right?
Mhm.
Finding what that next step would be, but understanding what the challenges are to that in this region specifically, right? We are certified sustainable through an accredited association organization.
That's awesome.
Yeah, our wines, there's nothing that is certified vegan, but there are wines that could be, right? That don't incorporate any animal products and any sort of fining or filtering. So yeah, there's that portion of it. At this point, we haven't pursued that certification, but again, that's something that the consumer is looking for.
Yeah.
So that's something that we'll always keep in mind. If our consumer is looking for that, we can start to produce it.
Awesome. What do you guys think of your wines?
I really like this. So on the card it says dry, but I don't get that it's too dry. Because I feel like sometimes it could
Dry, but not too dry.
Is dry.
Yeah.
But this is good.
Yeah, so that one.
Sometimes I'm a little scared when it says dry.
Like it's gonna be a little biting or something.
It's gonna be too much, right?
Intense. Yeah.
Okay, this one.
Technically, the majority of our wines, except for the sparkling Merlot, are completely dry, right? Just means that there's no residual sugar left in the wine.
Goes well with that cheddar too.
Yeah, absolutely. Please, guys, dig into
I just took a piece of the cheddar and I was like, it tastes it, right? Now take a sip of your wine, and it goes really well with that cheddar.
Yeah. The brie would also
Right?
probably go really well with that too. But yeah, I mean that one, it's dry, but we're also looking to tone back a little bit of that natural high acidity that Riesling has and bring more of that fruit flavor.
And what do you have over there, Ellie?
Rosé.
The rosé.
The rosé, right? And again, that one is just we're looking for fruit forward, fresh, a very summer wine, right? And so depending on the vintage, that's going to be a blend of different wine grapes. This year, what we're going to end up doing is going to be Merlot, Malbec, and Cabernet Franc.
Ooh.
That's what's going on.
Okay, let me just say, last time I was here, which was 2 years ago, I took home, like Amanda's like, I want to give you a bottle. What do you want? And so I got like all these tastings, and I took home a bottle of Cab Franc. Yeah. And when my now husband tried, like, he was like, Cab Franc, he's a former like master bartender.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's, a blending wine, blah, blah, blah. And then he tasted it and he was like, no, this is not Cab Franc. He's like, this is too good to be a Cab Franc. Like, you're talking about somebody who has gone to Puerto Rico on drink competitions, has gone to Spain, who's traveled all over the world to do these and worked in super high-end steakhouses, having to learn all about wine. Was like, there is no way this is a Cab Franc because this is way too good.
Well, that's a high compliment. Tell him thank you from us for sure, right? But Cab Franc, right, is that red wine varietal out here that I think, again, and I think quite a few producers out here would agree with me, it does so well out here. And the way that it grows, the way that it develops the flavors, it's just, and it's also very unique, right? It's going to be different from other Cab Francs from different regions, but that flavor, that complexity, that's gonna shine through.
Yeah.
So I think in general, when it comes to red wines, we're making an RG Cab Franc this year. Doubling down on that one because it's one, the fruit is amazing.
Yes.
It looks great. Maybe we can take a little bit of a stroll out there and
Oh,
we can try some of the
absolutely.
grapes that are still out there.
I love that. Last time, my favorite grape was actually the Merlot grape. That was the one that
Yeah.
was the most ripe, and it was so good. It like exploded in my mouth. It was.
Merlot is also one of those that's emblematic out here on Long Island. Yeah.
See, that's what I was telling. She's like, I don't like. I'm like, Merlot is underrated.
Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
you know. I think it was also that movie Sideways. He talks
Come
so
on,
much,
Paul
right?
Giamatti.
He talks so
Yeah.
much smack about
Yeah.
Merlot, and it was always about Pinot Noir. And no other. I felt like a lot of people that weren't wine people got Pinot Noir because they saw that movie.
Mhm.
But I'm like, dude, you guys are sitting on Merlot. There are some really amazing Merlots out there, and they're still being made, but people just like they stay asleep on them because of that movie. It still like has this lasting effect.
Yeah, I would agree, But that being said, I hope people start branching out a little more because you're absolutely right. There's some Merlots that are just incredible.
Yeah.
Like there's that fruit forwardness that comes along with the varietal itself. But then there's all of these other tertiary flavors that end up rounding out a really well made wine.
Yeah.
And I hope to get there. I hope that I have the opportunity to make that kind of wine.
I don't doubt that you will. I'm so excited. Okay, let's go to the next one. She's been waiting. Yeah, she's been waiting.
I'm blabbing on too much. Yeah.
No, this is amazing. Like honestly, this is instead of just being like a couple of like, Instagram things. Like this is a whole episode because this is so much awesome information. Like I love it. Leo, I'm so excited. Like I'm so excited you came out. I'm so excited. Like Carla was like, I'll ask him. I don't know. And I'm like, no, please ask him. And
yeah. You came at the right time. These last couple of days have been quiet. On Friday, we're pulling in more fruit. And then from there, the next following weeks are going to start to get more busy.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a perfect timing for it. Yeah.
And he said, he told me, he said he's listened to the Wine and Chisme podcast.
Yeah. That was one of the first episodes I listened to was the one with Mariana. I was like, I want to know what Mariana's like. Oh, Wine and Chisme. Like, I want to know what's up. And I was like, that's
Did you get a good idea of who she was like based on that episode?
I did. I listened to a few and I was just like, yeah, this is... Yeah, the philosophy, the hard work, like it's the focus, the leadership. It was just like, this is the kind of person I want to be working with.
Yeah.
All of in my life, the biggest influence has always been the women in my life. They're always the strongest. They worked alongside the men, my dad, my uncles, and then they came home, and that work continued. In the households, in the raising of the children. In my eyes, the women in my life were always the strongest. They always bore the biggest burden. And so when this opportunity came available, it's just, again, another, like, check box. This is an amazing, smart, dedicated woman that is leading this two different companies. RGMX and RGNY, and that's the kind of person I want to work for.
Oh God, you're making me love you more and more. That's why I'm like, yes, we're gonna be BFFs, Leo. Now, just so you know.
Get rid of us now.
Yeah, you get that. Sorry, you're in deep now.
I really appreciate that. That means a lot. I mean, I love doing this. Again, I'm very fortunate that early on, I realized that, and so I've been able to focus on it.
All right, let's go to the next wine.
You got the Pinot Noir.
Now I got the Pinot Noir.
Pinot Noir. Yeah, that one there, a Pinot Noir is...
This is the sustainable one. You said sustainable, minimal intervention wine.
Absolutely.
Stainless steel, 100%. You don't get often 100% Pinot Noirs.
Yeah, I mean, in certain regions, there's always something that needs to be slightly bolstered, right? And there's allowances for adding X percentage amount of other grape varietals to still be called a Pinot Noir. But this, again, what we're looking to do is make a wine that is reflective of place, time, and varietal. Right? If we're making a Pinot Noir, it's going to be Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
Right.
I also like that on here on your little card you put seller recommendation 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Is that like after they buy the wine, or is that like don't like within this period don't have it more, or like is that how long you guys age it?
Yeah, so once it's released, so once it's available to the public, that's kind of where the time starts, right? But at the same time, like wine aging is also a journey. So I recommend you buy a case at a time, so you can try it at different times. You know,
and see how it progresses.
Yeah, try one every year.
Buy a case at a time, mi gente.
You know, and so you can sort of see how that's developing and pinpoint when that peak moment is, right? So
oh my gosh, the first thing I smell is plum, like red plum.
Yeah.
That's like smell it. You probably smell it now that I've said it.
Yeah.
But so what I've told people is because I'm still learning, right? Doesn't it smell? Is I smell everything that I'm cooking, right? Every spice, every seasoning. Here, smell this. Every spice, every seasoning, because it eventually gets banked in your,
Yeah.
And then I do have my wine wheel, right? My aroma wheel.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know what that is, and then I'm like, oh, that's what it is. But I always tell people, just smell everything.
Yeah.
Just smell everything, because again, people are like, oh, I'm embarrassed, I'm having barefoot wine. I'm like, I don't care what you're having as long as you're enjoying it. Exactly. But the more that you experience it, the more that you smell things, the more that it will start clicking with you. But I still do get happy when I'm like, I smell red plum, and you're like, yeah, and I'm like, yes, it's working.
Yeah, I mean, it's practice, right? Just like anything else, you practice and you start to get it. Yeah. Erica, you have there the Cielito Lindo, exactly. So that one is a chillable red, right? You'll see the difference even compared to the wine right next to it. That color is lighter. It's going to be more fruit forward. It's meant to be enjoyed chilled, right? But you can enjoy it in summertime or in the wintertime by the fire, right? That one's one of those that has less tannin. Yeah, that's.
Oh, dude, this Pinot Noir is so good. Yeah.
Fruit forward, fresh, less tannin, lighter Pinot Noir, lighter alcohol as well. You have the skin fermented Gewürztraminer, right? So
I feel like I smell grapefruit just now, but I don't know what fruit it is.
There is. It's very floral too, like maybe some rose petal in there. But that one, again, it's a white wine grape that rather than being pressed and fermented just on the juice, it is fermented on the skins, right? So you get more complexity, you get depth of flavor.
That's why the color is a little deeper too.
That's why it's orange, right? That's an orange wine. Yeah.
So people were like, what's an orange wine? An orange wine is just a white wine grape that's fermented with the skins.
Exactly.
This is super dry and I love it.
Yeah.
But it's dry, but it's drinkable.
Yes.
Like sometimes it's too dry and it's like, I know.
Yeah. And that's the goal for that one. It's also lower in alcohol. We want you to be able to enjoy that and not necessarily have to, swirl
There's
it, age
another
it, think about
smell
it.
I smell in this.
This is good. I told Jessica, I was like, imagine it a little cooler in summer.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna
be nice. Yeah, absolutely.
See, I don't taste grapefruit and I don't smell grapefruit, but it is like I know it's something I know, but I can't.
It's a little earthy. It's gonna be
a
little bit.
Honestly, that kind of has an umami flavor to it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's that's from the skin of the Gewürztraminer.
Look at me! I feel like I get so proud of myself.
That's what I'm saying, right? Well, again, it's practice. Once you've done it for a while, you pick out these things that just jump out at you.
Yeah. But it does. It makes me so excited because I'm like, oh, I actually do. Because to be perfectly honest, prior to starting the podcast, I was just like, oh, I like what I like. Oh, this is what I like. And then when I started the podcast, people started asking me for recommendations. I'm like, oh, crap. I guess I need to start learning more about wine because people are starting to ask me recommendations. Yeah. And then that's when I found out there wasn't any directory of Latino wine brands. And I was like, why is there no directory? And that's what prompted me to create the directory, the first directory. And then I have my WSET 1. I still need to, I have all my materials to get WSET 2. I just haven't done it yet. But you're right. It's just practice and practice and practice. And I honestly feel so blessed and honored that this is what I get to do because I get to learn. Work sometimes,
it
right?
does. We're working. We're working right now.
We're working right now. Salud.
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
A little bit more about this one. I'm very interested. It's
That's the what is that one again?
Cielito Lindo.
The Cielito Lindo, the chilled red.
Throwing me for a loop because it smells one way and it tastes different.
Yeah.
It does, and it's dry. Like I said, that's the driest one out of all three of these.
Yeah.
But it's so but again, I'm that person who loves that dry. Like I love when all of a sudden I'm like, oh wait,
Yeah,
I need some, you know,
yeah.
I'm
It gets the
not,
juices
yeah,
going. It's like I want something to eat now. With
yes,
this. Yeah. That one, the fermentation process, it starts on like a red wine, like a normal red wine would be on the skins, right? And then we press it off of the skins before the fermentation is done.
That's
Right?
why it's lighter.
That's why it's lighter, so that we don't extract any more of that tannin, which comes from the seeds, comes from the stems. It also comes from the skin a little bit, that color too. It all comes from the skin. So you press it off, you ferment just the juice, you get a lighter color, right? This year, we're going to do something very similar. I'm hoping to incorporate a little bit of maybe some whole cluster, whole berries in there, which sort of does like a partial carbonic fermentation, where the berry, when it stays whole and intact, it starts to ferment from the inside out, right?
Really?
Yeah. So it creates fruitier flavors, a little more like.
Okay, Leo, you're gonna have to get. I'm gonna have to give you my address. You're gonna have to send me some of that.
Yeah.
To come out here like at least once a quarter and be like, okay, so what are we learning today?
Yeah. Please come out.
We are doing. Wait, so I got asked to do a wine and cheese tasting for Women's History Month back here at Ellie's alma mater in March.
Okay.
So I feel like we're gonna have to come back out here.
We'd love to have you.
Yeah.
Yes, we'd love
Like-
to have you. We've got a few.
You know what I find even more interesting is, and something that you said like right at the beginning, is the science behind winemaking. Because I feel like, again, another thing that Latinos don't think about
Is the science of
the
wine.
science. Like it's science. Like you
Absolutely.
could take your love of science and a passion for wine and make it into a career.
Yeah.
And
I
feel
was about to
younger
say, like,
people
to
don't
be able
know
to
that.
have that, to be able to say, oh, I love science, but what do I do with? There's so many different avenues, and to be able to, like, I'm not a science person, but I love to drink wine, so this is what I do.
Yeah.
This is literally a job in STEM. Like,
It is.
Yeah, I agree with
It
you.
is a job in
and
STEM.
people don't talk about it enough.
Yeah. Again, biology, chemistry. That's what this is. You know.
You know, we're gonna need to connect you with like Latinas in STEM, like all of these different things, so you can talk about that.
I love that.
I
would
know
love
people.
That, right?
I
'Cause
got
this is,
you.
Yeah, this
I got
is,
you.
It definitely is, right? Like right now, when we're out there and we're measuring temperatures and bricks and density, and then these numbers end up in a chart to build a graph to understand what the flavors did at certain parameters of the fermentation. All of that is chemistry. All of
Yeah.
that is, and then you've got to understand conversions and all of that to be able to do this. You know, so it's not just drinking. You know, it's not just
Right.
drinking wine.
That's the
There's a
part
little
I
bit to
take
it.
pleasure in.
Yeah. That's what makes it fun, for sure.
I have a friend that's a chemist, and she said the most difficult with when it comes like to food and products and stuff like that is wine and fragrance.
Mhm.
Those are the
Oh,
most
is this
difficult.
the girl from last year, from the event last year, who has her own like makeup thing?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no, I think that's so true, because you don't think of that. Like, you don't think of wine as that. People often think of wine as just like the product, not all of the things that go behind it. So, Erica, for you to say this is really a career in STEM is like, I never thought of it that way. That's such a huge like perspective shift for people who don't know, who love math, who love science, but they don't, maybe everything that they see doesn't necessarily appeal to them.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe it does, but maybe something like this, because we also, you know, the other thing that I continue to talk about is, you know, there are over 11,000 wine brands in the US. Wow. And this is what I've found so far, and I'm sure there are more, but there's less than 100 Latino owned wineries.
Wow.
Within that.
Wow.
That, which is what prompted me to create the directory, right?
Less than
But
1%.
yet, over 3/4 of agricultural workers come from our community. Like, that disparity is so glaring. So how do we? What do we do to help? And oftentimes it's because things are passed down from generation to generation, and you know, and so often, like, you grew up around it, we did not grow up around wine, right? It's like, if you're in those regions, then that's part of your culture, that's part of your what you know. But if you don't grow up in those specific regions, oftentimes you think of wine as bougie,
Mhm.
you think of wine as inaccessible. What do you think? Like, especially like Maria being part of this amazing like wine family, right? You growing up in wine, what do you think that you guys see that others don't to help bridge that gap between like people who think it's bougie when you're like, no, we're in this too and we're growing this and we want this to be accessible for you?
I think for me, it was seeing and knowing people that were like me, my color, my culture, my language in this industry. That to me was a big driver, right? My older cousin Miguel Lopez was in the wine industry, right? Cristina Gonzalez out in Oregon, Parra, the late great Jesus Guillen uh, out in Oregon. Like these were people who I knew and I saw in this industry being successful, and understanding that hey, I can do this too, you know, because you're absolutely right. The work that is done, the majority of it is done by Latina communities, right? All of my family, they worked in the vineyards, right? But growing up, wine wasn't part of our dinner table, right? It wasn't part of our celebrations. It was always for them. That's not for us. That's for them. We like cerveza, we like mezcal, tequilita,
Yeah.
right? But wine always felt like it was on a different level, even though we grew the grapes. We did all the work. We processed these grapes, brought them into the winery, did the sorting, the punch downs, the pump overs. We probably didn't get involved in the tasting and the blending side of things. That was the winemaker, right? But the work was, we knew the work, right? But it still always felt like this culture was out of reach for us.
Yeah.
And slowly, in my family, it became more accessible. Slowly, my uncles, my dad, my aunts, my mom, they all started to really understand that, hey, wine is for us too, right? It does go well with our food here. It does taste good. And we're doing all of this already. Like, why can't this also be for us? And that was what was really important, right? Understanding that piece of it. And like I said, seeing people like me also doing it and doing it well.
Yeah.
And that is the path I hope to follow. I hope to make wines that, of course, reflect a sense of place with a philosophy of sustainability, but that are tasty, and that other young Latina kids see that and say, hey, that, remember that guy over there? He was brown, he was Mexican, I can do that too.
It's
That,
like
I
it's
think,
that one thing. If you see it, you can do it, right? It's
yeah,
that like sometimes people don't see it and they feel like it's an impossibility.
right,
But when they see it, it opens up so much possibility in somebody's eyes.
absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
awesome. All right, let's go
Yeah.
to the last one.
Tinto.
I'm getting like so emotional. Yes, sí se puede.
Exactly, yes.
I mean,
Absolutely.
look, I can't say I'm super good at what I do, but I'm super good at what I do. That's good.
You're asking all the right questions. Making me think. I hope I'm not blabbing on too much.
No, I love it. I love it. Honestly, I mean, I didn't even know I was going to be able to get this much time with you. So it makes me so excited. But because I'm curious and because, like, I know what I hear from our community and I know what I hear, in regards to that. But also, like, I didn't get a chance last time because I mean, we're being honest, the previous winemaker was not a Latino, so I was just like, oh yeah, just tell me a little bit. Like, I was really more focused on Maria, right? And I love Maria. She's so, like, I love what she's doing. It makes me so excited that she took such a huge chance coming here of all places, right? She could have gone anywhere up and down the West Coast and been successful. But she chose freaking New York, Long Island of all places to come. And I just admire her so much for that, to be able to say, you know what? Nah, I'm going to come here and this is where I can succeed. And I can be a Latina and freaking be bold and be innovative and hire these amazing people to do these things. So then when finding out, like, you came out and I was like, this is not the guy. Because Carla didn't tell. She's like, "Oh, we'll get you." I didn't know who the winemaker. I thought it was still the other previous person, which he was making amazing wines. I do not want to discredit him for that, but now to know that we have a Latino behind the helm at a Latino-owned winery is amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hey, Courtney.
Amazing, Leo's.
All
He's
right,
awesome. We love it. We
taking
love
our time
it.
through the slide. Yeah.
We're getting a whole podcast now out of this. So
This is not a mini episode.
I wasn't prepared. I mean, look at me.
yeah, this wasn't a mini.
T-shirt on. My voice is a little hoarse.
Yes. We have barely even cracked anything yet because we've been talking. We're so like blessed by his info.
Maybe just some water, some plain water. That'd be awesome. Thank you. No, they're just dry. That's all it is. Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Yes.
She knows me too well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Courtney.
Okay, so we're at the Tinto. Sorry.
Yes. 2022 Tinto. It was one of those wines that, again, you have a year that gifts you a wonderful growing season. It's really just up to us to then take that and guide it to the right place so that we can make an amazing wine like that one was.
So your Tinto, what blend of grapes is there, your Tinto?
It was in this order: Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, Petit Verdot, and Malbec.
Oh,
right?
wow.
A little Malbec thrown in there, right? Very classic Bordeaux blend, but every one of these components at that specific percentage brought a little piece.
That's why, like, when you smell it, you can't pinpoint one particular thing. That's to me, I think.
Yeah, it changes, it evolves, other things stand out. And as time goes on, as it ages in bottle as well, it's also going to develop, right? Maybe some of those more astringent tannins or biting acidity is going to calm down a little bit.
Nice and dry too.
It is, yeah.
Nice and dry too.
Again,
like I said, I appreciate a dry wine. Yeah. So what do you have?
You're gonna like this one. This is the sparkling Merlot.
Ooh, okay, you can try this one.
I'm excited.
You already tried it, obviously.
I'm excited for you to talk about that one.
Thank you, Courtney. And yeah, this one here is
this
the
smells
SCIELO
like.
Malbec. It's also from 2022, sparkling Merlot.
Oh, that is good.
That was a year gonna like.
This is good.
Remember the first
Changed
time
my mind about Merlot.
I told you, people do not give Merlot a fair chance.
Oh, and I hope they start to. I hope they start to, especially out here in Long Island. Yeah.
Yes. This is really good. What do you have? No, Ellie?
This one is Malbec. It kind of reminds me of that plum smell you had earlier that you liked. I want to try the Malbec. I'm a fan of Malbec.
So again, that one is right when the vintage is right.
And this is like, look, you can tell. Look at how much lighter that is.
Yep. That one's just a Malbec, whereas this one, some of the more of the color came from different varietals.
This almost has like a bell pepper aroma.
A little bit. So that one might be
but on the like a sweet bell pepper, or the sweet pepper, not maybe a bell pepper, like a sweet pepper.
So that one, that one's from 2023. It came in slightly earlier. I mean, you can see it's 11% alcohol.
Oh yeah,
earlier than it would have otherwise.
Is so. Right? That's like such a different Malbec than I've ever had.
Yeah, so I mean, especially if you're thinking of something from like Argentina or
okay,
Spain,
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a fan of Argentina Malbecs.
No,
Malbecs stateside, I actually enjoy, but which I would find surprising because Malbecs are very much an Argentinian like stronghold. But I've noticed that I love a peppery Malbec, but I don't get that from an Argentinian Malbec. I get it more from a California Malbec.
I would say the Argentinian Malbecs, I would say, are definitely more fruit forward, and the tannins are a little more structured there. Right. This one, I think, in general, I think the Malbec, if we end up making a Malbec, I think it's only going to be made in the years where we feel like it would be a good standalone wine. If we do end up with another one this year, it's going to be a little darker, a little more complex. Again, very reflective of the vintage.
Yeah.
Right. We don't want to do too much to it to then have it be something that we designed, right, or made, right? Hey, of course, the title is winemaker, right? But I prefer like wine grower. You know, for me, a great wine, it's a great wine. It isn't made; it's grown. You know, when you can take what Mother Nature gave you, roll with the punches, pull in clean fruit, and then just guide it along. That I believe is the years that you can make the tastiest wine.
That is so awesome. So let me ask you, outside of RGNY,
Mhm.
what are, and I'm not going to ask you what's your favorite wine because people ask me and I'm like, well, it depends on the season, what I'm feeling like. What is your favorite wine right now?
Ooh, my favorite wine right now. Wow, you know what? I haven't. I've tried quite a few uh, 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 Long Island wines out here. Um, I think, in general, I really enjoy sparkling wines. I think people like to categorize them as celebratory wines or maybe a summer wine, right? But I think a sparkling wine can go well with almost any season and a lot of different dishes.
I
So that's what I
agree.
enjoy. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I just tried the piece of chorizo, so I'm going to try it with the tinto.
yeah, yeah. And try
Because
them.
I feel like it's going to go really well.
Yeah, that's gonna be a little bit of the smokiness from that chorizo is gonna balance well with some of that fruit.
And I was right. It
Yeah,
tastes very
yeah.
good with the
If you like it, you're right. That's all. That's all
right?
it is. If you
Yes,
like it,
yes.
you're right.
If you like it, you're right.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
If you like it, you're right. Well, I do have like pending trademark. We not only work the land, we own the brands.
Look
Hey.
at that. That's a cool one. Maria would definitely take a couple of those. Yeah, yeah. It's yeah. I think they're amazing wines out here. There's a few of our neighbors. Macari makes some awesome wines. They're right down the road. Sparkling Point makes great sparkling wines. Suru, another company started by Russell Brand and his family.
Russell Brand?
Russell Hearn.
Oh, I was like, wait.
Excuse me. Ugh, I'm thinking about movies now.
I'm
Russell
like,
Hearn.
no, we
He's
don't
also
want
been
that
around a while.
anyways.
But yeah, really great wines as well. There's a lot of producers, Russ McCall, but now out here, people just have to come out and try it. Check it out, Again, we have quite a few different wines here, right?
Oh,
You're not
yeah.
going to like every single wine, but I guarantee that at every single place, there's going to be more than one wine that you're going to enjoy.
Yeah. Oh, no. I mean, honestly, I've had a taste of all the wines. But again, I'm also a wino, like Borracha Central right here. No, it's kidding. In the best way possible.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, there really hasn't been any wine that I have had an aversion to. I will say that. And I try and, even if there was, I always try and say, I'm not a fan of these particular flavors, but if you are, because I think it's really dangerous to say, I don't like this wine, you shouldn't get this wine. Because I see that often on social media. But my thing is always like, again, what is your palate? What do you like? What do you not like? Like, see all these chocolates right here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, is it chocolate?
That's
Yeah.
quince.
Oh, okay, never mind. Just kidding. Never mind. I will have that. But I'm not a chocolate fan. So when things are like, oh, have chocolate, have this and that, I'm not going to have it.
Yeah,
I don't like chocolate.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be for me. Oh, yeah, it's like a fig.
Yeah. How one is that?
So if you like it, that's all that matters, right? That's what I like. I'm glad you've like helped reiterate that message for me because I always feel like all that matters is if you like it. Doesn't matter what I think about it. It doesn't matter what you think about it. What matters is whatever the person who's drinking that. That's all that matters. If they like it, then I'm happy for you. Then you found, as long as you found something. But what would you say, like, for people who remember you're dipping their toe? Because I always feel like people start at like rosé and then they go to white and then they go to red. Like they kind of start with these things. If people are just starting to get into wine, what are the things that you think that are the most important for them to just keep an open mind about?
I would say that every producer is going to be different, right? And I think we can't overthink it. Right? I think you hit the nail right on the head when you say, if you like it, right, good. Then that's a good wine to you, right? So we don't have to have like, oh, I need to know how to describe the tannins or the flavors, or if the card says I'm supposed to taste forest floor and wet stone, but I don't taste that, then like oh, well, am I wrong? No, you're not. Whatever you taste, you're right. So I think we gotta lose that fear. Tenemos que perderle miedo and just do it.
Yeah.
Just go out there and taste it and
Sin miedo. That's
sin
what we
miedo.
did.
Exactly. Yeah. And don't be afraid to say what you taste, and then have people be like, I don't know if I taste that, because again, you're very different. You all have different palates. You're gonna taste different things.
So when Latinos start getting into wine,
Mhm.
what do you think is the most important thing for them to like? Do you think it's different, or would you just say the exact same thing?
Here's what I would say. I would say yes, very similarly, but I think to make it even easier, think about what your favorite dish is. What do you like to eat? What's something special that holds a special place in your heart, and then find a wine that would pair well with that. Now we have quite a few resources that different publications that take into account the Latino experience, and that'll tell you, hey, have a Malbec with some pozole. Have
I have a
tinto.
pozole and wine guide.
Yeah,
I do.
So
And I have a tamale wine guide.
So yeah, maybe a tamale and a Riesling. Maybe a Sauvignon Blanc and a ceviche, right? Find what you like, let's say you enjoy a mole. I would say, ooh, that one's a little complicated. It's kind of all kinds
Yeah,
of
because
different
there's
moles, right?
Oaxaca mole capital.
Yeah,
Let me just tell
absolutely.
you, when we went to Oaxaca, I had a yellow mole,
Mhm.
and it was one of the best moles I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah,
My husband had the black mole, and mine was
yeah,
better. Mine was better.
yeah. I mean, I'm totally biased because my family's originally from Oaxaca, but I think Oaxaca makes the best moles in Mexico.
I'm not gonna lie. No, I
think
think they do. We
Yeah.
were in Ciudad de Oaxaca, so we were like right in the city. We were right like at the hotel that's attached to the church. So we faced the El Centro. We were like right in the Zoológico right there.
Zócalo? Yeah.
Yeah, the Zócalo.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's
Oh,
gorgeous, right?
yeah. My husband says he wants to retire there.
Yeah. It's not a bad place to retire.
Yeah.
Not at all, yeah. Now that's also
Mm.
there's a new highway that goes to the beach. You're 2 hours from the beach now.
Well, I said because I grew up in Escondido, California.
Ah, okay.
So I was like, well, that's Puerto de Escondido. That's where we need to be. It's right on the
there.
beach too.
Yeah, it's meant to
And
be.
look it.
I
I'm
feel
a
way
yeah.
better.
I'm a water girl. So
Yeah. I would say so. I would say I am as well.
yeah,
That's why this place fits so well for us too. We're surrounded by bodies of water.
that's so awesome. I'm so like we're gonna go. I know we're gonna go through
Yeah,
the vines and everything, but
yeah.
thank you so much for
Of
sharing
course.
so much about like honestly, this is the first time we've gone through so many wines and
Yeah.
everything, and I'm so appreciative
You're
of
so
that.
welcome. You're so welcome.
Thank
Jessica. Thank
you.
you for coming out. Yeah.
Leo, like you're part of the Wine and Chisme family now, just so you know.
That's great to know.
You're
I feel like
I call the vintners, I'm like my vintners. You're one of my vintners now.
It's great to hear. I feel like I'm in wonderful company. I think you've interviewed some amazing people, some amazing Latinos that are very representative of who they are, but also doing amazing things in this industry. So I'm honored. Thank
I'm
you
so
much.
excited. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Hola mi gente, thank you for listening to this episode of the Wine and Chisme podcast. If you would like to hear more wine and more chisme, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Saludos.